Salvete. In this video, we are going to look at exercise 86 and 87. We're going to do 2 sentences from each of these exercises. And where we are in the scope of the course, we just took notes on adjectives for the first time, first and second declension adjectives. And in the last video, we learned that adjectives must agree with the noun that they are describing in 3 ways. In case, they have to be the same case. Number, they have to be singular if they're describing something singular, and plural if they're describing something plural, and gender. And so we spent a lot of time while we were doing the declensions kind of learning how to tell the gender of words, and the reason we're doing that is because eventually we were going to get here to where we are now, and we would have to make sure that that especially if we're describing a third declension word, that we use the right adjective with that word, because with a third declension word, it's not quite as easy to tell the gender. We have those Sachs and Lancet and Error rules to help us figure that out. And so we begin with exercise 86. Oh, sorry, before we do that, the other thing we learned in the last video was that adjectives mostly go after the words, kind of like Spanish. They mostly go after the nouns that they're describing, but sometimes they go before. And when they would go before is if it's an adjective of quantity, an adjective that tells how much. But most adjectives are adjectives of quality, adjectives that tell what kind of something, and therefore they would go after. Okay, molti cristiani in prima acie erant. And so we want to identify our subject and our verb first. And so I see an in. In takes either the ablative or the accusative. So these things are ablative or accusative. These look like they could be nominatives, though. It looks like they're nominative plurals from the second declension. Second declension masculine. And so Christiani is our subject, because multi is an adjective. Multi means many, like multitude, and so it's an adjective of quantity. So that means multi Christiani. Multi is describing the Christians. So our sentence begins with many Christians. Many Christians did what? Our verb is over here. Erant. Erant means were. So many Christians were in prima acie. In prima acie. So they didn't enter anything, right? They just were somewhere. So this is an in with the ablative. We're in what? So prima is our adjective is one of our adjectives that we just learned. It means the first. And prima is an adjective, kind of counts as an adjective of quantity. In the first something. In prima acie, many Christians were in the first. And what is acie? If we don't remember, again, as you're doing this work, you need to go back, look at your notes, look at the vocab list until you see acies, aciei, battle line. So in prima acie, that's just the ablative ending, right? For acies, aciei. So we're in the first battle line. Okay, the next one. Longum agmen in altos montes venit. Longum agmen in altos montes venit. Now, you're actually seeing one of the rules that I taught you broken here, broken twice. What kind of column? Agmen is column, a long column. It's telling you what kind, right? But the adjective you see is going first. Sometimes, if we just want to emphasize that it's a long column, and not just a long column, but a long column, if we want to emphasize the adjective, we will also put the adjective first. But the standard place for most adjectives is to go after, because most adjectives are adjectives of quality, which tell what kind. And most of the time we're not emphasizing that adjective. So the standard place you'll see adjectives is after the nouns. But if you ever see them in a Latin sentence, already before, it could, it certainly could, that could happen. So longum agmen, is this the nominative? Agmen is a nominative, so that could definitely be our subject. In altos montes venit, and venit means came, so this is an in with the accusative. These are accusatives here. So this means the long column. Now it's not a column on a building, it's a column of soldiers, right? So longum agmen, the long column, came. And then if it's coming, we're using in with the accusative, we're gonna translate this in as into the mountains, in montes, because montes is an accusative, right? Eis ibis, eis ibis. And there's an adjective here that's telling us into what kind of mountains? Into the tall mountains. I'm going to abbreviate mountains there. The long column came into the tall mountains. Now, exercise 87 goes from Latin to English, and so it's a little different. Good leaders praise peace. So what we're going to do is when we're going from Latin to English, we're going to put our adjectives after unless they're adjectives of quantity, which tell us what kind. Good leaders is an adjective of quality. So we're going to actually say leaders praise peace, but then we're going to stick the word good after leaders. So let's begin with leaders. What is the word for leader? The word for leader is dux, duces, but we need a plural. So we're going to use duc, D-U-C, as our stem. We get stem from the duces, right, from the genitive. This is what tells us what the stem is. What is the nominative plural, though? Various is, E-M-A, ace, that's the ace, right, duces. So duces, and then good. Good is bonus, so I'm going to write bone, which is the stem for good, and we need good to agree with leaders in case, number, and gender. So this says manus aum, but imagine it says bonus aum. You can still use these endings, okay? What gender is a leader? That's going to help us pick which chart, the masculine, the feminine, or the neuter chart. Leaders are masculine, so we're going to ignore these two, and we're going to choose from this chart. We're dealing with a noun that is nominative plural, so boni, duces boni, means the good leaders. Duces boni, praise peace. And so we're going to put peace here, and then we're going to say laudant, making sure our verb has our nt because we have a plural subject, and then peace, laudant. So we don't have an adjective with peace, it's just plain old peace. So peace is pax, pacis, but we're going to do pach for our stem. We don't want to put the word pax because pax is nominative. We need this to be in the accusative. They're praising peace. And so the accusative of pach is pacem. Duces boni pacem laudant. And the last sentence, the bad kings killed many Christians. Okay, here we have the bad kings. We have an adjective of quality, tells us what kind. So we're going to actually put kings first and then put bad after. But then we have many Christians, an adjective of quantity. So we're going to put this one first before Christians. All right, so let's just say the kings. Okay, rex regis. The way to say multiple kings is reges, reges. Bad. The word bad is malus aum. Reges mal. We want an ending of mal that's nominative and plural, and it's also masculine like kings. So reges mali. Reges mali Many Christians killed, we're going to say. We're actually going to say Christians many killed because, or no, we're going to say many Christians because we want the adjective of quantity to be before the Christians, and then we're going to put killed at the very, very end. So, okay, our way to say many is multus aum, so I'm going to write just my stem, molt. And we want, if they killed many Christians, we're dealing with the accusative here, right? And the Christians are also masculine. We're going to also be using masculine. So we're going to look for the accusative, and we're going to say multos, multos. Multos Christian is our stem for Christian. We want Christians also to be an accusative plural, Christianos. So bad kings did something to many Christians. Now these match each other perfectly because we have a second declension noun with a first and second declension adjective, so they will match. They will have the same exact ending. These do not match because we have a third declension noun with a first, second declension adjective, and so our endings do not match exactly, but they're the correct pairing of endings. And then how do we say killed finally? Occiderunt. Regis mali multos Christianos occiderunt. All right, the rest are fairly similar, and if you followed pretty well with these four, you should have no problem doing the remaining exercises. All right, valete.